So Mars and Mars Saturn, a Mars Saturn Moon affliction will cause a lot of surgeries in life. Okay, why you've had that? Okay, so what does that mean? Why is that? Because we know that because it's there's several, and it generally some of it's chronic problems. Okay, Saturn will also produce that. The most important thing to know about it, though, is that that whenever the moon's pulled into an afflictions with both Saturn and Mars, is there's several areas that come into play. One is Saturn. Saturn always says, "I am not. I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect enough. I'm not something." Okay, Saturn. That's how Saturn works in our life. It's the denier of the higher self. That's what Peter did in the Bible. Peter was Saturn. Christ called Peter Satan. He said, "Get behind me, Satan." To Peter. Why? Because Peter, he says, "You desire the things of the earth more than the things of God." Okay, and that relates to the lower self, the desires, the sexual desires, all the things that we deal with in finding fault with others. The most powerful assault we can make, which is the accuser, Satan, the devil, the accuser of our brethren. That's what Saturn was called, or Satan. Okay, so the most powerful accusation we can find against another human being is generally sexual. You know, we denigrate and find fault with anybody's sexual misdeeds. That's where we can do the most damage to a person. You look throughout history, you know, the Scarlet Letter of the early century, where women were branded, you know, because they had an affair or whatever, you know, and then the words we use, whore and prostitute, you know, all these things that denigrate people to make them look bad. If you look at the efforts of politicians to destroy other ones, you got it every day. Yeah, so politics, the same thing. Look how many lives have been destroyed with that. Totally brought down. Find out. I mean, they had, the FBI was trying to find everything they could on Martin Luther King sexually to bring him down because he was having affairs. So, you know, this is the method by which Saturn works the best. That's where Saturn can do the most destruction, okay, in these arenas, because Saturn rules that energy. And that's another subject altogether. If you read my book, The Greatest Story Never Told, you'll understand the complexities of Saturn and what parts of the body it rules and how it has been assigned rulership over these domains. So anyway, back to this, okay? Need for food or sex to relieve anxiety and tension suppresses anger, but when released is in strong emotional outbursts. This is the Moon to Mars afflictions, okay? These are things that when you're doing a chart, you can see so many layers of interpretation. It's not just, you know, emotional, it's physical. It rules your breast, it rules the female if you're a woman, okay? It rules your emotional nature, it rules your mother in your chart. Your relationship to your mother, if you have a lot of afflictions to your moon, as you do, by the way, shows a very dysfunctional relationship with your mother and a problem living with her. And you'll never really have harmony with her because she'll always judge you and she'll always be condemning you and finding fault with you. Am I right or not?
You're perfectly on.
But that is the way this energy works. So when I see a chart like yours, when I see this heavy afflictions from Mars, Saturn, all of it coming over to your moon by that one aspect brings them all together, you see.
Would that explain like elective surgeries as well?
Anything.
Knowing that you're not good enough, you want to be sexier.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
Okay, so of course it does. Anything I said earlier, Saturn means I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I am not, I haven't got big enough breasts. So what do? You go in and you get your breast augmented. You know, you have your hips drop down, you have, you know, fat taken off of this or that. All of this is Saturn stuff. It's I'm going to look good, and I'm going to surgically.
Mars is marring yourself.
Marring yourself, exactly, or scarring yourself.
I have a friend who's had 3 stomach surgeries now.
Yeah.
Trying to be something she doesn't think she is.
Exactly. So it'd be interesting to look at her chart. You know, you see what I mean? It's a fun thing to do when you're doing astrology because it makes you explore people in a way that no one else can do it. It's like having a secret code that opens up their life and lets you see in. And it's scary because people look, when they see what you can see, they're shocked. And I tell people, I've been doing astrology for 40 years, maybe more, I don't know, 50. But I always tell people in astrology, I go for the juggler. People say, Ron, it's kind of negative, isn't it? And I said, no, because if I tell you it was a nice day to do this and go shopping, I mean, what's that mean? It's a blue sky stuff, and a lot of people do that. But if I go right to the most major traumas in your life, if I can describe your relationship to your parents, which I can see in a chart, if I go to the chart and see you've had surgery of part of your body, that's something that they know I couldn't know. So what I want to do is validate astrology for them and me. That's where I go first. I look at the crosses first. That's how I go into a chart. So, okay, so let's go to the next one here. Moon to Saturn, deep emotional depression, melancholy and moody, holds on to childhood hurts, and thinking, and what's that? Wow, I messed that one up.
You messed up about 3 of those words.
Yeah, I really did that one good.
I think it's because Saturn was talking to you right now.
Moon to Saturn is going to mess you up.
And thinking of the past.
Thinking of the past is what I meant. And thinking of the past. Often constant accusations of the mother or by the mother, okay? Because that's the moon, and Saturn is the critical, I'm not worthy. So the mother, if it's involved in that Saturn, it means she's got that constant finding fault towards you. So you grow up with that, and it makes you have to work on your own self-esteem all your life. It's a very difficult aspect to be born under, okay? So what we're dealing here, Moon to Saturn, can give problems with parents in life and a generally unhappy childhood. If other aspects support this, okay, you notice I add that to that. Saturn in the 4th house can also make for an unhappy childhood. The 4th house rules your early childhood, and it rules your latter years of your life, okay? For example, I have Saturn in my 4th, okay? My 4th house rules my early childhood. My mother was married 9 times. I was put in boarding homes till I was 9 years old. I was abused as a child. I was in a Baptist home where other children abused me and where they beat me all the time. And I mean, I went through, my early childhood was the worst. I try not to remember it, it's so bad. I don't have memories of it almost, because I've suppressed it, it's so bad. So, a mother that wasn't there for me, never there. So anyway, 4th house can do a lot of that stuff, okay? And so, and my moon in my chart is in a Grand Cross, afflicted, okay? My mother, anyway, enough of my mother. Anyway, let's go on. So this is what the moon to Saturn can do, okay? It can represent afflictions, okay? Let's go on. Mars, Saturn, Pluto, worst of afflictions in a chart, okay?